Good morning everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lisa and this is Growing on Vancouver Island. Today I'm going to take you on a tour of my backyard vegetable garden. If you're new here, I garden in a zone 7 to 8 and the lovely man behind me, his name is Zipper, and you will see him making little appearances in many videos. He's my garden supervisor. So let's go take a look at my exciting news before we see the vegetable garden. Here we have one of my two Desert King fig trees. I've had this tree for, I want to say about 4 years now, and it does produce figs every year, but it's always exciting when I see the little figlets start to form. So let's take a quick little look. If you look up here, we've got little baby figlets starting to form, and we've got lots of them on this tree. Look over here. There's just lots of these little baby figlets starting to form on my fig tree. The interesting thing to note is that all of these figs so far seem to be forming on the upper sections of my tree. So I'm starting to think that next year or later this year might be the time to give this tree a very thorough pruning, because I'm not a fan of climbing ladders to pick my fruit. So I think that might be on my to-do list for the future. But until then, we've got lots of lovely figs forming to enjoy. So here's a view of my vegetable garden. Over in this area, this is some garlic that I planted in the fall for the first time ever. I've never grown garlic before, and it is looking absolutely gorgeous. This garlic is called Music. I'll just give you a perspective on how tall these greens are. This is my lower leg. My knee is right here, and these garlic greens go past my knees. So they're quite tall. I don't know how tall these things are going to get, but they seem to be living their best lives in this garden. And in the middle, we've got my raspberry plants looking as happy as ever. And over here, these are the onion bulbs that I planted earlier this spring, looking absolutely gorgeous. And these tiny little sprouts we've got going on here, these are golden, I don't know if you can see that, but they are golden beets. This was my second time attempting to grow beets ever. And the first time I couldn't even get them to sprout. So I'm super excited that I have all of these tiny little beet sprouts going on. And these little guys here, these are also beet sprouts. These are a beet called Better Red Fornado. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, but so we actually have 2 varieties of beets that have sprouted, so I am super excited about that. Coming along this way, this is another patch of garlic. This I planted at the same time as my other patch. And these bulbs were given to me by an elderly neighbor in the neighborhood, and they are looking absolutely beautiful too. I would say the foliage on this variety compared to my other variety, this one has like a more limey green colored foliage and is almost more, I want to call it delicate. And the foliage on my Music garlic looks much more robust and more of a forest green. So I find that quite interesting to compare the varieties. I don't know what variety this is. He just gave me some very nice bulbs and said they were good garlics, so I think they probably are. And here we have a variety of onion called, what is this one called? Yellow Spanish onions. these little guys here that I planted earlier in the spring, and they're looking pretty nice and healthy. And these very lush onions at the back, which are about to bloom, these are just green onions that I planted a few years ago from the grocery store, and I cut them multiple times a year and they grow back multiple times. So here are my chives. I've got a ton of chives in this garden and they are starting to bloom. I usually do let them bloom because the bees love their flowers and I have so many of them, it really doesn't matter to me if they bloom. This beautiful lush bush is a massive traditional red raspberry bush. My other raspberries in the section over here are orangey red colors. There's a fall gold and another orangey red one that, or not orangey red, orangey white colored bush. See if I have the tag still. Called Rubus Honey Queen, which these are more like orangey pale white colored and they are super sweet and very plump berries and just absolutely delicious. I actually prefer these orangey white colored berries to the traditional red ones, but in general I love all berries, particularly raspberries, so I'm not complaining about any berries, but these are just a little bit more delicate and delicious than a traditional raspberry. And here we have these little red guys are a variety of lettuce that I started in my house actually. I didn't harden them off as I often don't, and they're doing pretty amazing out here. So sometimes being lazy is okay in the garden. And let's just take a little walk around the other side. In this corner here, we've got my potatoes that I have started sprouting. These are the ones I planted in the ground. And I also planted some in containers that we'll look at in another video. This plant here, this is celery that I planted a couple years ago, or maybe it was last year actually. And it was from scraps from the grocery store. And it took about several months to grow into a full stalk of celery. I cut it down and it's growing back. And over here, this is the celery I planted in a recent video from some scraps. And as you can see, it's growing. Nice growth on the top. Coming around this way, these little baby sprouts here, these are radish sprouts and they're doing just very well in their little somewhat shaded area of the garden. And this here is a climbing structure I put in for a bunch of peas that I seeded at least 2 months ago, maybe longer. And do I have any sprouts? That is the question. These, I'm unsure if they're pea sprouts. I'm actually thinking that's clover. I think I don't have any sprouts here, which is kind of sad. I think I had one or two, and I'm pretty sure some birds ate them. And the rest of the seeds I put in probably didn't germinate. They were old seeds, and maybe just not great germination anymore. I was just trying to use them up. I still have some more, but I might replant them, or I might plant some other climbing, summer-loving plant here. Because right now it is May the 10th, and traditionally we'd be planting our hot weather vegetables and crops at this time, but we've had such a cold spring that most people around here haven't planted anything that is summer loving, heat loving for vegetables and fruits. So we're gonna wait on this, and I might put some summer loving, heat loving plants on these structures instead of the peas, because our weather could turn at blink of an eye, we could go from hot or cold to hot. So anyways, this corner here is where I planted carrots. And I have these tiny little sprouts. I'm assuming these are carrots, so I'm not 100% certain if these actually are carrot sprouts, but I'll have to wait and see. I have a few of them, sort of reddish colored ones. And then I also put in a seed tape carrot here, and I really don't think there's any sprouts here yet. Here are my bok choy sprouts. They're doing well, but really haven't grown that much. Since my update video a month or so ago, they're only slightly bigger than they were in the last video. Coming out this way, we have, these are all my Alpine strawberries, and they are just blooming their little heads off. We've got lots of them here. And we got a little baby blueberry bush tucked in there as well. And this poor little guy got covered in soil. We're currently tearing apart one of our slopes and getting rid of some bushes and putting the extra dirt here because we have nowhere else. And some of the plants are getting covered in dirt, but that's okay. It's all a project and it will get washed away eventually. And this poor little calendula got covered in dirt, but it still has a little flower going on. Here are my honeyberries. I planted these last spring, and this year they bloomed for the first time ever. I've got 4 of them, I believe. And the flowers are all finished now, and I really hope that they got pollinated. I did try to hand pollinate just in case, but hopefully they were properly pollinated and we get honeyberries for the first time ever. Right in front of you is a random green onion that is growing, and a little random strawberry plant, and another little view of my vegetable garden. Let's go back to the pea trellis for a minute. Here we planted peas. We got bok choy in the middle, and we have 1 pea that has come up and is growing. I think there were more, and I also think they got eaten just like my other ones. But I might, just like the other section, put a heat-loving climbing vegetable in this area instead of more peas, because I think that might be a better idea at this point in the season. And here we have, these are my little pak choy seedlings from a recent video. I won't say they're doing great, but they're hanging on, so there is hope they're gonna survive. So that's gonna be all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Have a lovely day.